Hello everybody and welcome to my channel, The Gentleman Reviewer. So this week I've got a journal that I'm reviewing for these guys. With the popularity of bullet journaling and a lot more people trying to get into this method of planning, keeping track of daily tasks, it's becoming a lot more of a popular thing to do. It's something that I didn't really get into until I got into the fountain pen community mostly. And at first, I, like many others, just stuck with a composition notebook. These are super cheap. You can find them at Walmart or some other big box store for about 50 cents around school time. I think they're about $1 if you get them outside of school. But they're just big and bulky. The paper, while it usually does well with fountain pens, actually, I think I use this for practicing cursive a little bit. Yeah, for the most part. And so while it usually does well with fountain pens, it's just not great. You get a lot of bleed through and heavy ghosting. And then, like I said, it's just big. And then a lot of people who are bullet journaling use an A5, which is what this one is. This one's actually slightly smaller. But when you start looking into journals, you find that they're like a Leuchtturm, like $20. Rhodias are 20 to 25, depending on what kind you get. Like, I just spent 50 cents on the notebook. Why would I want to spend $25 on one notebook? So after some researching, I came across the Taotree journal. It's not a super well-known brand, but it's one that's been popping up more and more on advertisements, especially if you search bullet journal or A5 journal, something like that. So it comes in about $8 to $10 depending on sales. Sometimes you can get it for as low as $6. Just, you got to watch for sales. I think it's $8 right now with a 5% off coupon. So that would come at like $7.50 about, if I did the math in my head right. You can get them for as cheap as $6 because I think you can get 5 for about 26, so that'd be just over $5. Then you're buying 5 of the same journal, and I like switching things up. So one thing I wasn't a fan of right off the bat was the color. It's only available in yellow and black. I tend to stick with black and blue. I mean, you just saw my Leuchtturm journal is blue, and the notebook cover that I've actually been carrying my Taotree journal in is blue as well. So I tend to like those colors. And so I decided to go with something a little bit different. It's kind of like mustard with a little bit of mayo mixed in. One review I read compared it to farm-raised egg yolk. And I mean, the elastic closure does match it though, so I mean that's a plus. It just doesn't really stand out like that. So if you're fine with those colors, the black one's actually a little bit cheaper. So I've actually had this for a month. This has been my work journal, so I can't really show too much on camera what I've been writing in it. But back here I did do a large sample of pens, and not a large sample of fountain pens. I've kind of been testing this on and off with the inks that I've been reviewing lately. So sometimes I'll mention that I have a Taotree journal that I tested the ink on, and you'll see it over here, and then a couple other scribbles down here. But like I said, other than the color, it's not a bad journal. I mean, it's got 120 GSM paper, so it's pretty thick, almost cardstocky. I mean, it's going to be pretty flexible. It doesn't bend super easily. And while you do still get some ghosting that you can see there and bleed through on markers, that's the PM701 from Zebra, it's not bad. Like, it's not going to be like a Leuchtturm, for example. Let me show you what I was writing recently and the ghosting from that. I don't really have too much of a sample to show you. This part might work. It's like right there, the ghosting is a lot heavier on a Leuchtturm, which I was surprised by, but I'll review that journal eventually. So, like I said, it has 60, or I didn't say this yet, it's 64 sheets of paper, so it's kind of small. It's something that I use 2 sheets a day, and then there's sometimes I use more, but I use at least 2 when I'm at work. So I'm using 10 sheets a week. That only gives me about 6 weeks of paper. So it's got 128 pages. So like I said, about 6 weeks of paper for me. If you're writing a lot more, you're going to go through this quite a bit quickly. The paper itself is pretty smooth, so I didn't notice any like scratchiness or weird feelings on the paper while I was writing. So it's pretty good quality for an $8 $8 journal. Even when I used my Pentel Lorenz with 0.2 millimeter lead, it wasn't scratchy at all. It was actually pretty smooth. A lot of these are roller balls or gel pens, so naturally they're going to be smooth. It's like the Jimny Gel, got the Morning Glory, that's a roller ball. The Sarasaz, I've got, I think, all of those except for one. And even my fountain pens, when I got into, I think that's one's my Pilot Metropolitan. Even when I got into those ones, it wasn't like really scratchy. So that was kind of a nice experience. So like I said, on the back, there's quite a bit of ghosting. Some bleed through, but only when you get to the markers. But overall, it handled it really well. Even my, where is it? Oh, I can't find it right now, but my, the R301, which just tends to dump ink onto the page. It wasn't a rollerball that I really liked. And on the back, you'll see no more ghosting than the average pen. And that's a pen that usually just dumps ink on the page and bleeds through a lot. So the cover itself is made of PU leather, so polyurethane leather, so fake. It's got the branding on the bottom. It's slightly squishy, but it still maintains a hard feel to it, and it's grippy, so it's not slick. My IBAM journal was a lot squishier, and I actually like this cover a little bit better. So like a lot of journals in this, it does have the back pocket. I don't typically use these for really anything. Sometimes I'll carry business cards in there, but with my notebook holder, I actually slide the back cover into it, so I don't have access to the pocket anyway. The elastic closure is good. It holds it securely closed. It's the right length, so it's not too loose, not too tight. And then it comes with a ribbon bookmark that again matches the color. So it's just a standard binding. The back page is, I don't know, I'm gonna try to get a good view of that. So the back page is glued onto the back cover, and then it's actually a lay flat binding design. So, but you can actually do it a full 360 degrees and it's fine, no problems there. And then the spine has held up even after me flexing it a couple of times. No problems at all. I haven't noticed any issues with it laying flat. The pages do seem to curl up a little bit, but the binding itself doesn't, so that's a bit helpful. So the pages don't come numbered like you would see in a Leuchtturm, and it doesn't have its own index page like a Leuchtturm. Again, I'm just kind of comparing it to that because that's one of the most common bullet journals. But you know, those are things, if you're just learning out, you don't really need those. That's something that you can add. One thing I wanted to mention, it's a bit smaller than your standard A5 as compared to the Leuchtturm, which is a true A5. So if I were to line it up, it's actually just slightly taller. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get a good view in my camera setup for that, but slightly taller, just very slightly. It's about the same thickness as the Leuchtturm, whereas the Leuchtturm has 250 pages about, so 125 sheets, so just about double. But again, this has much thicker paper. And then when I line it up like that, you can see the Leuchtturm is a bit larger. So this one might be good for, again, starting out. It's smaller, it doesn't get in the way as much. Might just be a little bit easier. So overall, the Taotree I think is a great starter bullet journal, or just for anyone really. The pages are nice. It's going to handle fountain pens pretty well. I wrote on the back of this page, so the only feathering that I really see from it is on a flex nib. So it just handles almost everything well. It's smooth, thick paper. I think the only downside is the color availability and the fact that it doesn't have a lot of pages. Other than that, I think it's a solid journal. Very cheap. So if you're looking to get into bullet journaling and you want to do something a little bit different than a composition book, and you're not yet ready to invest in a nicer bullet journal like a Leuchtturm, Rhodia, Moleskine, or something like that, I think this might be a good shot for you. Thanks for watching, and hope you stick around for next time.